Got Your Eers On is brought to you by Tactical Legion 9.
Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Got Your Eers On. Guido here along with Scoot and Johnson.
Guido, you know how last week,
Yes.
go back to last week, Scoot and I told you the talent is there. Stick with these guys, right? Right. Well, since we talked, Scoot, they've done some good things.
Talent has showed up.
2 wins in the last week, one in Lubbock against Texas Tech, 76-61, and then we beat Auburn in the Big 12 SEC Challenge, 80-77. We'll talk about that here in a second. 2 wins, one of them against a team that was very good with the Auburn game. The other one against a team of Texas Tech guys, I mean, that should have been a win. Texas Tech can't win in the conference at all, Johnson.
Well, I would submit, Scoot, I'm going to try to beat you to the punch here. I would submit, because I expected this from Guido. Like,
Yes,
I expected this.
A wet blanket?
Right. Let me wet this blanket down and throw it over your happiness about your road win.
Let's talk about this wet blanket.
Why? Like, why?
Yeah, why
is the blanket wet?
What wet the blanket in the first place?
Well, I mean, it's gross. No one wants that.
It's who wants a wet
Yeah,
blanket?
who wants a wet blanket? No one wants that. So when in this trip to Lubbock, what I was going to say, I would submit that it made that road win even that much tougher to me because Texas Tech is so hungry. They were 0-7 at the time. WVU goes in, handles them, 15-point win. They had not won on the road in Conference Guido since February 23rd of 2021. Like, this is a huge victory on the road.
Huge. Yeah. Huge. Scoot, so here's what I got out of the Texas Tech game, I guess, which was that Bob Huggins actually looked down the bench. He saw Joe Toussaint and then said, hey, Toots, get in the game. Joey Toots plays 29 minutes in the Texas Tech game, scores 20 points, 22 points, Johnson. He's 4 for 9. He shoots more free throws than I think all of Texas Tech shot that game. I mean, Huggins finally, after all the stuff about Joe Toussaint not playing in the previous games, gets a bulk of the minutes in this game.
Yeah, Scoot, we were commenting on that. Huggs was not happy at all with the starters early in this game. He essentially does a line change. And then majority of those starters just sit in this game until about 5 minutes left in the half. I mean, you could tell
they trickle in too. It wasn't like they all came back.
But I mean, that second line is what clawed. If you remember, we're also giddy about this Auburn win. You forget that we started this game out. It was like 15-5 Texas Tech. I was beside myself watching at home because, Guido, I was also thinking, look, if you're going to get a win, this has got to be the team you capitalize on. And you come out of the gate and you're flat. Their crowd's into it. Their student section and crowd is notoriously tough to be in front of to begin with. WVU falls down 10. Huggs is mad. He goes to the bench. To piggyback on what you said, Guido, Joey Toots, Eric at this point, Seth, and James Okonkwo all set career highs scoring in this game. I mean, they all played really well. They all answered the call. They clawed us back into this game. And then the starters kind of slowly got their act back together and got the energy back up when they did come in.
What's interesting about the Texas Tech, if this is a little bit unrelated, off the topic here, but if let's say the 2 head coaches were to get into a fight, who would win?
Between Mark Adams and
Bob
Huggs, you mean?
Yeah, fist fight.
Well, I mean, first of all, Huggs is just a lot larger.
He's massive. He's a big guy.
For one thing.
Huggs is
Where are you going here, Scoot? You got a look on your face like you're leading the witnesses here.
I'd have to go Huggs. I know where Scoot's going. I know the story behind this. I'd go Huggs, but Scoot, tell them why you would go Mark Adams.
I'm going Mark Adams, a former professional boxer. Yes.
Mark Adams?
Yes.
Mark Adams.
Yes.
Well, you're enamored with this piece of trivia.
Listen, I mean, you can't judge a book by its cover, but that cover looks like it's not a boxer.
not a former
So
boxer.
what do you know about this boxing history, Steve?
I don't know a lot. I just know that he was I'd heard a story in passing that he was
Well, I'm assuming Golden Gloves or something like
I don't
this,
know.
or what?
What would be amazing is if he fought somebody worth talking about.
Now I'm going down a rabbit hole on
He's
Mark Adams,
a former
boxing
Golden
career.
Glove boxer. Yeah, you are correct.
Wow.
His father was also a former Golden Glove boxer as well. So interestingly enough, when you look at Mark Adams, you definitely don't see a former Golden Glove boxer.
But Scoot, look, I got to be honest.
And I don't know if this is true. It says I'm reading from the Dallas Morning News here.
Yes, I see the same article.
Adams was a former Golden Glove boxer. He has influenced and led winning regional titles in Golden Gloves in both Amarillo and Lubbock. And then there's a line that says he once fought a poor man in a bear costume. I don't even know what that means. What does that mean? Was the man in the bear costume, or was Mark Adams in the bear costume?
Well, and consider what's the Dallas Morning News doing here? Number 7 is he likes candy. What are we what are we doing here? We had to flesh out 10 things.
Well, he also was a GM for a hockey team.
I don't know. This is an interesting article.
He's the world's most interesting man.
Johnson will put this article in the. He'll link to this article, the Dallas Morning News, in our show notes. But if you're interested in learning a little bit about Mark Adams, this is the way to go. Anyway, back to WVU basketball, Scooty. So yes, the second line comes in off the bench, if you will, and looks great. Huggins, after the game, kind of talked a little bit about that. He talked about how the bench was deep. They were able to rely on those guys. They played better than the starters. I think he said something like along those lines.
Let's point this out for those who are Guido enthusiasts. Guido's followers, his disciples, took to Twitter in the first 10 minutes of the game, and they were all over WVU. Here we go again. The world is falling.
Ugly. Yeah, it was ugly.
The sky. I guess the world doesn't fall. The sky would fall. The sky is falling. Here's another way to start, Coach Huggins. Great start to the game. All this kind of negative Nelly kind of garbage that we typically see if, God forbid, the other team starts on a run and they're up 8-0 or something to start the game, which I think is what the case was in Texas Tech.
But in my disciples' defense, when we're at the under 12-minute timeout, TV timeout, and we're down by 8 at that point, against a Texas Tech team that hasn't played close in hardly any of their games this year in the conference. I think the fans had a right to be upset. And traditionally, we don't turn those around.
Too early. It's a game of runs.
Well, I think people were expecting fight out of this group, knowing that you need this win so bad. So I think that's why people flew off the handle. Scoot, the thing, and I think we probably will end up talking about this a little bit more, but the thing that stood out in this Texas Tech game, Emmett Matthews only logs 11 minutes. He scores 2 points. On the heels, you might remember, of Huggs saying, we got some guys logging minutes that probably shouldn't be logging minutes type of thing. Do you think there was any connection there? Because it felt like he was struggling. Look, you have those games. It's not the end of the world, but it was noticeable.
Well, the talk coming out of the last couple games prior to this game was some guys are just playing for themselves. We're not playing like a team. Like Huggins said, some guys are getting time that probably won't be getting as much time. And by all accounts, the one guy I think that we could all agree from hearing stuff from Huggins and reading stuff is it probably wasn't Joe Toussaint, because word on the street is Joe Toussaint drives pretty much a Uber and picks up all these guys and takes them to the practice facility. So I don't think it was him that Huggins was referring to. But it is interesting that, and I find it very interesting, that Kedrian goes off for 20 and 22 points, and then all of a sudden that is not happening anymore.
He scores 4 points, only logs 15 minutes in this game. That was another switch. Now, maybe, Guido, maybe that second line comes in, they're hot. Hugs is like, I'm riding the hot hand, let's let it roll. They had a lot of success. So maybe there's not a whole lot to read into that, but it seemed like this was also the game that James Okonkwo sort of comes onto the scene in the forefront of Mountaineer fans' minds. He has an awesome block during this game that got the bench into it. He logs a ton of minutes because it was really a game of bench scoring in this game. Like you said, I think the bench scores like 65% of the points in this Texas Tech.
Has everyone with a name floating out of their mouth after watching that block.
Oh, so people were saying, haven't seen the likes of that since Sags Konate.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, they were calling him Okonkonate.
Okonkonate?
Yes.
Okonkonate.
Okonkonate.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and then you saw it continue in the Auburn game with minutes. I mean, maybe he's the real deal. I mean, when you see a guy like him, I think he played basketball for all of like 2 years before he came to West Virginia. He's another one of those guys, right, that didn't have a big like prep career and, been playing basketball, been on these like U9 teams for, and all of that.
So what you're saying is you and Fairmont have a little bit more experience than young James Okonkwo does in playing basketball.
I mean, yes, I probably.
So what has happened? Where did the rails fall off? Where did things go wrong?
I mean,
well, isn't it funny though that to me he is the most unlikely story of this basketball season so far? Don't you think his emergence? Like I feel like in the last 2 or 3 games he's now coming on.
Well,
he's logging
he was
a ton
an
of
afterthought.
minutes.
He was a square peg,
right? And Scoot, do you remember in the off season when we knew that Big Tunka was coming in, Mo Wagi was, a heralded recruit that they were excited about his potential. I don't know if you recall, but in the offseason, you and I were talking about, if you're a Pat Sumnick, if you're a James Okonkwo, what are you thinking? And you told me, you're not going to remember this, but you said, no, I think you need to be patient with James Okonkwo because I remember you saying you had read where they had sort of developed a relationship with Hugs because they knew he needed to develop.
He was supposed to redshirt
him not to
year.
Hop in the portal,
and they ended up playing.
And so you were kind of waving the flag for him, saying, "No, I think he's going to be like a development
because he's like super young.
Like
he's a college sophomore, but I think he's like only 18 still or something.
Yeah,
when
he came
19.
to campus. I think he came to campus when he was like 17 or something like that. I remember that. And I think the interesting thing is when we saw them get Mo in the offseason and pick him up in the portal, like we thought, well, okay, there go Okonkwo's minutes right there. Like he's not gonna, that's who's gonna take his minutes and. It's kind of not. Yeah, it's right. Definitely not shifted that way. Mo's been playing less and less and less every game.
Also interesting to note, and I'm not sure that my wife still knows that his name is Okonkwo. She refers to him as Algonquin.
She's just filling in the blanks when she can't remember the pronunciation.
She thinks his name is Algonquin.
She goes Native American.
Yes.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah, okay.
Well, my dad still catches Oscar Speedway for the Kentucky Wildcats now and then, so that's fair enough. But then Guido, all that parlays into this Auburn game where I feel like the minutes were more shifted now back to the starters. The energy in the building from the starters, especially in the first half, I guess you could argue in the second half, maybe not the same, but in the first half, the energy from that starting five was terrific. Those minutes that ebbs back to those normal starting five.
What is happening, right? So let's just play this out. Talk this out, I guess. What's really happening is there has been a shift in how the playing time has been doled out, right? So it was obvious to a lot of us beforehand, but maybe even more so now, that Larry Harrison was pretty much running all of the substitutions, with the exception of the occasional Huggins looking down the bench telling somebody to get that guy out of there because he made a mistake or something. We'll call that the Jordan McCabe. So he would McCabe somebody into the game.
Somebody gets McCabe.
He would McCabe somebody in.
He would McCabe someone in, yeah.
And Yeah, right.
Like a big
yeah,
hook.
I miss Jordan McCabe.
They'd come out with Sandman Sims and give him the hook. So
we used to have the bets like would Jordan McCabe be out in like by the 3-minute mark? Like how many minutes would Jordan McCabe last? Yeah.
So now you're seeing Bob Huggins is taking on a much more active role with getting guys in. And I to be honest, I'm gonna say again, we're not seeing every waking minute of this bench. The camera's not fixated on the bench the whole time, nor can we hear all the conversations. But to me, as the outsider, it appears that outside of maybe somebody picking up a second or third foul or some kind of random foul trouble, occasionally you might see like a Ron Everhart or a Josh Eilert kind of throw a guy in just to, kind of tend to the foul situation. But you're seeing some different combinations that we haven't seen. Like in that Auburn game, we're starting to see now something we haven't seen since Culver and Speedway were here, where you've got two bigs in the game at the same time and two true post players.
So I wanted to talk though, Scooty, about this because what happened in the Auburn game is something that you've been preaching about for years now. I feel like for years, at least for the last couple seasons. We saw honestly 7 guys play in that game. I mean, Mo got 7 minutes. Kobe got, I think, 6 minutes. And for some reason, Seth Wilson only played a minute.
Yeah, right. He got 1
minute. But other than that, you only saw 7 guys play. You saw Toussaint and Okonkwo come off the bench and the starters, and that was it. And I think there were a couple things there. I think Huggins has been wanting to do this. I think Huggins used to, we used to do this more, and he probably wants to do this. I think one thing that helped him was, Eric Stevenson has, not that he just finally got it. I'll just put it that way. Like, no fouls, shooting great, like just playing smart basketball. And that made a difference. And I think when he does that, it allows this team to be the way this team should be. It allows you to play guys, like he played them on Saturday.
I do prefer the short bench though, Scoot. I want to see people play. I get that there's a con to that, but I like that.
How much of that do you think was Larry Harrison though? How much of that do you think was like being a long bench and playing 12 guys a game?
I think 90%. Yeah. I mean, ultimately it's Huggins' fault for letting it happen, right? I mean, the buck stops with him. I mean, he can say, "Hey, we're not going to do this." But I think he had I think he was in too deep with his friendship and his respect for Larry to really let him make any changes. But what I would change, the only thing I would really change in that Auburn game is, so you ran Eric Stevenson from the majority of the game. You had to. He was on fire. We saw a good portion of time where you had Tunka, Jimmy Bell Jr., and Okonkwo together. And then there was a large period of time where we had the 2 point guards, Toussaint and Kedrian, in the game together. The only thing I would change and make a little bit different is I would probably put Kedrian on the bench and bring in Seth Wilson as that off guard. If I'm being honest, I want to love Kobe Johnson. I want to be his biggest fan. I don't see what he brings to us on the offensive side other than he's not aggressive to the basket. He just is like a facilitator of the ball to me. Like, he's not a guy like Seth Wilson who's a threat to shoot at the very least. Shoot for the love of mankind. This guy is second all time in high school points to LeBron James. Had I known this about him prior to this year, I probably would have been like, why aren't we playing Seth Wilson a ton more? Now that I do know this, my respect and my interest in watching Seth Wilson play has risen dramatically.
Well, and especially after he comes off of a Texas Tech game where he looked really good in that Texas Tech game. So it was interesting that he got, that Kobe got more minutes, but I do like the way that they're running. I know you're not a Kedrian Johnson fan, Scooty, but like, he is defensively, he is stronger than a lot of the other guys on the team.
Yes. But here's the thing, and I respect all of these guys. I think they're all good players, right? But if I'm being critical,
Scoot, tell the
Here's the-
people.
like,
Tell them-
listen,
tell them
tell
how
the
you
Okay,
people.
well, here's what I'm going to tell you. And
Yeah.
maybe I'm wrong, but this is how it feels, right? Kedrian Johnson goes off for 20 and 22 points. We are struggling to play as a team. We don't win those games. It comes across like Taz Sherman time. And maybe that's where he learned some of that stuff. Because I'll be honest, Taz may be a great guy. Don't really know him. But he came across like a guy that wasn't a great team player. Again, I may be totally wrong. I may be way off base, but I'm just calling it like I see it from the outside.
Well, Seth calls Taz out by name when you ask him about his development, so I would just throw that out there. But do you think there's anything to make of Texas Tech? Because I know I'm harping on this, but I want to harp on it for a minute, Scoot. Because I'm a big Emmett Matthews fan, and coming into the season, I thought it was Trey Mitchell's talents and then backup singers. You know what I mean? To be, if I'm being honest, that's how I felt coming into the season against Texas Tech. Now we just discussed their lowered minutes, but they combine, I think, for 5 points in this win over Auburn. Honestly, like if you were gonna, what you want to use wet blanket again? If you were gonna throw a wet blanket on something, it's a good thing Eric Stevenson hits 7 threes and goes for 31 because Emmett and Trey combined for, I think, 10. Is there something like I want to be happy about these wins? I was ecstatic. Like the rest of the weekend was wonderful after Auburn, right? There's no being unhappy. There's nothing to be sad about. But if I had like a tinge of worry underlining these games is that I don't understand where those two guys in particular are. Like, where are they going? Like, I feel like their energy needs to be more, maybe aggressive is the right word.
Emmett has some shades of what he was like his last year here, and a little bit of maybe it's the plight,
like where you just wanted more.
it's the plight of the 6'7" wingman at WVU, right?
Right.
So you are Jalen Bridges.
Yeah.
You have games where you score 18. You have games where you score 2.
Yeah.
You're Issa Ahmad. You have games where you're
maybe.
not awake. You have games where you are. You look like LeBron James.
Phenom. Yes,
You're
you are a
6'7",
phenom,
225, and look freaking like a
Right.
stud NBA lottery pick. And then you have games where you shoot the ball 3 times and miss all 3.
right. It's like a
And
recurring
somehow
thing
you've
at this position.
you have guilted Bob Huggins into starting you every game. So I don't know. Trey, I don't know enough. I think we don't. I mean, to be honest, we really don't. We don't know enough about Trey to know if this is typical Trey Mitchell type playing. Is something off? Is he hurt? There was talk that Emmett might have an ankle issue or something. Was that a factor? I really don't know. But
and that's all fair. I mean,
Right.
I'm not trying to throw any shade at these guys. I'm a big
and that's
fan
the same
of
thing
both.
I mean with Kedrian and Taz and all those guys, right? I'm just calling it like I see it from the outside. I don't really know enough, and there's a lot of other factors.
I think if anything, Guido, you probably look at this and you go, yeah, you know what? They struggled a bit, and you still beat the 15th ranked team in the country. You know what? Like maybe that's the way you look. Like you have enough talent across the board that maybe those two guys can have an off night and you can still be really successful. Maybe that's the way to look at it.
And as we do, the three of us, we were texting this whole game, and Scoot's chirping at halftime. He's like, "Look, you got Guido, you're down on this team. We're up, huge on the number 14th ranked team in the nation." And I'm like, "Just wait, let's see if this team can close out." And then 5 minutes left to go in the game, I text you guys, and I was like, well, let's see if this team has heart. That was the moment. Like, they had to be able to close out a game. They let Auburn back into it. Huggins even said in his postgame he wasn't happy with the second half play. I think my biggest worry is that they made it. They had heart, but it was on the back of Eric Stevenson, and I have yet to see Eric Stevenson, at least in play against teams like this, be able to string 2 or 3 of these level games. I don't expect him to score 31 every game, but will he come back next game and put up, 18?
To me, I'm wondering. So let's go back in the annals. I said
the annals. You want to go back in the annals? All right.
Let's go back in the
Let's get into
annals.
those annals.
To the annals.
We're here
Of
getting deep in the
WVU
annals.
basketball.
Okay.
Okay. Do you remember a guy named Joe Alexander?
I recall him.
I
Yes.
do.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you remember midway through his last year, it was as if a switch went off
Yeah.
in that
sure.
young man's brain.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, he starts averaging close to 30 a game to finish out the season.
Yeah. Hugs sort of made him a project at the end of that year.
And if you recall, he was drafted fairly high. Some might say the lottery
pick. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, granted, he did not have the NBA career that all of us had hoped he would have, right? And I don't know I have no idea why that didn't work out for all, maybe he couldn't run an offense. Maybe
But that's sort of beside the point, right? That you're making.
Right.
Like he went from a guy we didn't even really know a lot about
Right.
to
the talk about, like, all we knew about Joe Alexander before Huggins got there was he was the guy that could do cool dunks during warmups.
yeah, he was like this super athlete. Everyone, hey man,
Right.
there's this guy
Everyone
on the
was just like,
bench.
man, you gotta watch this
Alexander,
guy.
that
He
he's
just
like
dunks on
crazy
all the-
athlete. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that.
So I bring him up because I'm wondering, is this maybe a guy who's turned the corner and because I think it's always been there, but is this a guy who's turned the corner and now is on that kind of path? Is he going to score 30 a game? I don't know. Probably not, because he's an outside shooter, right? So those guys get streaky. But when you look at a guy that's got some moxie about him, I think moxie's a good shoot. Charles Barkley is raving about him on the sideline. Charles Barkley doesn't know this kid. He's raving about Eric Stevenson and how he likes him and how he likes his swagger and
Well, it's an interesting point, Scoo, because do you remember how Hugs used to do that? Hugs used to go get a guy and be like,
get a guy and then just
you're the
turn him into
project
an NBA
this season.
guy.
Yeah, he did
Yeah.
that with Deshaun Butler. He did that with Joe Alexander. I think he did it with
Kenyon
Javon
Martin,
Carter.
Danny Fortson.
Like he used to do that. You could, that's the guy. Like Joe Alexander, I remember one of my first thoughts about Joe Alexander is like, Hugs yells at everyone. He yells at that guy a lot. And it was like, I came to know over the course of that season with Joe, you could tell Hugs was like, look, I know you can do more. I'm screaming at you to do more. I demand it from you. And maybe that's what he's starting to do here.
When I see Eric Stevenson, granted, no one has hired me. I'm not Stanley Sugarman.
Okay.
You know Stanley Sugarman?
No.
From the movie Hustle?
Oh yeah.
Adam Sandler,
Oh,
where he was the
Okay.
he
Sorry.
was the NBA scout.
Yeah.
I'm not Stanley Sugarman, who knows NBA talent when he sees it, but I'm going to say this. As of right now, on this team, right now, I think Eric Stevenson has the best chance of playing in the NBA.
Guido, can I just interject something? Do you recall when Scoot said this about Jordan McCabe?
No. He had Jordan McCabe could pass like
no,
an NBA
you
player.
100% said the exact same thing about Jordan McCabe.
Scoot,
100%
proceed.
did.
I just wanted to give context.
So I'm 500. I'm batting 500.
Okay.
I had
All right,
Alexander and I had
guess.
McCabe.
That's
all right?
one way
I'm
to say
I
it.
mean, it could still happen, right? Jordan McCabe.
Well, can I throw some statistical things at you, Scoot, about
Sure,
Eric Stevenson?
throw away.
First of all, do you remember a gentleman named James Bolden?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Well, Keenan Cummings at Rivals Keenan tweeted out, Eric Stevenson is the first WVU player to score 31 points since James Bolden in 2019.
What's funny about Beetle was built kind of like Kedrian Johnson. And I feel like that doesn't sustain itself. It does not, that frame does not make for the big time scoring player.
Let me give you one more.
Okay, we got.
Guido will appreciate this one too. ESPN Stats and Info tweeted out over the last 25 seasons, only one West Virginia player had ever scored 30 points on 5+ 3 point. This is one of those, Guido, this is one of those Stats and Info things they do where like 8 green beans, petted a cat. Like there's a lot going on here, but just stay with me for a second.
Right.
So over the last 25 seasons, only one West Virginia player had ever scored 30 points on 5+ 3-pointers versus an AP ranked team. Eric Stevenson makes it 2, joining Deshaun Butler in 2009. That's Scoot. That's good company, right?
Right. I'm telling you, he had the look of a guy that you want the ball in their hands. And I said this earlier in the season, and it went away. It did drift away on us, but it's coming back, right? So prior to Eric Stevenson, the only other time I felt like this guy will hit anything that touches his hands was Sean McNeil 2 years ago. Now, Sean McNeil last year, we didn't see any of that. Sean McNeil 2 years ago had some Jimmer Fredette, cross half court, flip it up from the northern panhandle,
that's
and it's
true.
probably going in.
Right.
Right now, I feel that way with Stevenson. He shot one from Ravenswood.
I'm just saying. I'm asking. Is Eric Stevenson able to stay like this and be this Eric Stevenson versus Crotchell Region Gate Eric Stevenson?
Listen, I'm going to say this: Crotcho Stevenson was a good Stevenson. The problem with Crotcho Stevenson is he got in trouble. And then I think because he got some browbeat and knocked down, he probably had some miserable days of practice following that Crotchell game. I think, had to dig himself back out of this hole.
Do you think this is book 3 of Eric Stevenson? Do you think book 1 was like pre-Crotchell grab? Then there was the Crotchell grab era where we felt like
this is the third act.
Yeah.
Like a Shakespearean play.
Like Act 2 was like, the mojo had been lost.
Yes.
Act 3 maybe starts with this Auburn game now.
Where we see the flaws in Act 2. Now we're
like return of the Jet. He's back on the scene.
The trilogy.
Yes.
This is the third one.
We finish strong with a new and improved Moxie is
Skywalker.
back. Eric Stevenson.
Gotcha.
I will say, guys, I think it's key to this team saving its season. I'll put it that way. And it's hard. Like, Johnson, you and I were talking about this before we got on the show. It's hard to even talk about, like, quote unquote saving the season. Yes, I know we've only got 2 wins. We're 2-6 in conference. This Auburn game wasn't a conference game.
What is Kenneth Pomeroy saying?
But that's what what we were talking about.
That's good segue,
Ken Palm has us right now ranked 20th. Ken Palm has WVU 20. And so that's where we're not even showing up in the AP
You're
polls.
preaching to the choir here. Talk to Negative Nelly over there on the top left of my screen.
I think Guido's reporting it to you because he cannot get his head around how we are 20.
Son, it's a good team. It's just been poorly coached up until midway through the season.
Well, maybe that's part of the third act too. Because Guido now, I think you're probably saying 2 things. Can an Eric Stevenson, can he maintain something like that? Number 2, can the coaching staff, Hugs included, can they build off this win? This is a great win. This is one of those wins that should propel you into the end of your season, right?
Right.
Something else I want to point out, right? So I am now, not that anyone really needs to know this, but I'm going to tell you, I am now following DeMar Johnson on the Twitters.
Okay.
And
I'm sure he appreciates that.
I think he does. He pointed out here, he tweeted recently that, he was a week and a half into the season, and that was the first game he scouted when he got the job, and the guys pulled out the win for him after, looking at his scout.
Yeah, they're now 3-1 since he came on board. Yeah.
If that's any indication, if he's the guy that helped, scout what Auburn does and help lead to at least to that big lead in the first half. Listen, if you can break out to a 16, 18 point lead in a half at some point, it's really tough for another team to dig out of that hole, and you're probably going to win those games more times than you're not. So that's key. If we can get good scouting early.
Well, I think in Guido's defense, though, I'm not going to speak for you, Guido, but I think the hesitation is that I can see WVU winning the next 3 games or losing the next 3 games just as easy. You know what I mean? Like the conference is so tough. So like I love them right now. I love that they went into Lubbock and won. I love that they won this electric game against Auburn at home. But it's not like you can let your guard down. You know what I mean? It's not like you can pat yourself on the back. Like you got to get ready to go next game.
And that's exactly what I was going to get at, which is like, I apologize to my ACC friends and my SEC friends and you know,
you have friends in these places,
all the other teams that Gonzaga has to smack around. But no, but like seriously, like the Big 12 is leaps and bounds better than any conference this year, deeper than any conference this year. I'll say that. And so I think when you look at it and you say, well, it's great that Gonzaga is a powerhouse or you know, whatever ACC team's doing well this year. Virginia, are they the best ACC team this year, I think?
They're having a good team. Yeah, they're having a good season.
Yeah, you know, great. Congratulations. But like your bottom of the barrel is way more bottom than our bottom of the barrel.
The grind isn't there. The grind isn't there. Like,
I think we would all agree. We would be top 3 in just about all the other leagues.
I would go as far to say if we were in the ACC, which I know, including myself, there are a lot of people that wish we were in the ACC. I think that we would be the number 1 team in the ACC right now. I think we could be number 1 in the ACC.
Well, you wouldn't be 2-6 in conference.
No.
How about Big Ten?
Same. I mean, you know, you've got Purdue, Purdue's kind of a juggernaut this year. So, you know, I would say, you know, you've got Purdue in there. But yeah, well, Rutgers isn't bad this year, but yeah, there's no, I mean, like, again,
how about,
I think we're top tier.
Pac-12.
SEC, top tier. Pac-12. I mean, you know, UCLA's good as they are every year, but like most years, but like
SEC, you've got Alabama, you've got Tennessee.
You know, I mean, to be honest with you, you know what conference would be hard to be in right now that I would enjoy being back in?
The Big
East.
Yeah.
Because Marquette's good this year again. UConn's back being UConn.
Providence is decent.
Yeah. I mean, Xavier's good. Like, there's some good teams.
I think the funny thing, too, I may have saved it here. I think it was Ethan Bach that pointed out Iowa State is headed into Texas Tech for their next conference game. Winless in conference, Texas Tech versus Iowa State, who I think is, if not in the lead, like up there tied for the top of the conference. And Texas Tech is favored in that game. And he was like,
how's that even?
What is going on? Like, that's the story of this conference is you're never safe. There is no no gimme. There is no just go.
The worst part about our next game, there's 2 bad things. Can you name both?
Jamie Dixon's haircut.
Okay, that's one. That is one of them.
I'm gonna say
court.
I'm channeling.
Yes, that is number 2.
I'm channeling my inner
court.
It's the court.
Oh
it
my
is
God,
bad,
that court is
so
horrible.
Bad.
That
court is not only like the arena. It feels like you're playing in some sort of weird laser tag facility.
It's the one time in your life you wish you were colorblind.
Like you feel like you're in some sort of laser tag place.
Well, who thought that floor was a good look? It hurts to stare at it for a while.
Whoever is deciding these uniforms is a moron. Black, gray, purple, and red.
Pink. Don't they have
put a red in there?
A pinkish purple.
Like what are you doing?
Maybe
none of it looks good.
What do they call that, Scoot? Frogs of War?
Yeah, blood. Yes.
Yeah.
Frogs of. Yeah, like it's bad. It looks really
good.
bad.
So we'll see what happens. WVU plays 15th ranked TCU Tuesday, 9 p.m. The game is on ESPNU at the Schollmeier. How would you say it in German, Scooty?
Schollmeier. Yeah. It's good
arena in Fort Worth, Texas. And then Oklahoma travels to the Coliseum on Saturday to play, get this, guys, first time in a while, Saturday night game, 8 p.m. tip-off on ESPN2 against Oklahoma.
What did Elton John say about Saturday nights?
It's all right for fighting. So we'll see what happens there. We'll see if WVU can keep up the momentum that they have. I do want to talk another basketball thing with you guys that I think was hilarious. I don't know if you saw this. Duquesne basketball game being broadcast. And I have to believe, in my heart of hearts, I have to believe this was like staged or something. This had to be some sort of like prank stage. An Uber Eats guy like literally walks onto the court during the game, like while gameplay was going on, looking to like deliver
It was
food.
a prank. They said it was a prank. Yes,
was
they
a
said
prank?
it was a prank.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Things get weird, right?
Well, I mean, it's a funny prank,
it is a funny prank.
but a dangerous prank for that guy.
What's
right?
a funnier
right.
prank? The Uber Eats guy or the guy that throws the gigantic paper airplane onto the court?
Well, I mean, come on, Uber Eats guy has to.
Uber
I
Eats.
think the airplane itself though takes more skill, right?
What do you think? Well, so Scoot, if you're in the know, then I didn't know it was a prank, but
I
like,
didn't know that. Yeah.
was it like did Duquesne students get together and be like, hey, let's get
I
this
don't know
guy
the
from Uber
details
Eats onto
behind
the
it,
court?
but I would imagine it would be something like the three of us are drinking some beverages and we say, you know what would be hilarious is let's send an Uber Eats guy down courtside and give it to like the third guy off the bench. And let's see what happens, not only to me, but what happens to that guy when we're handing him food like he's the one that's ordered it. And his coaching staff wants to just like send him to Siberia.
If you were going to order Uber Eats, Scoot, courtside,
Ooh,
now, and it's not like it's from outside the Coliseum,
yeah.
right? So you can't get a pepperoni roll or
right.
something. Like if you were going to Uber
Right,
Eats something
right.
in to your seat, what would
That'd
your
be
order
interesting.
be? Like what would you?
That's a
Uber
good,
Eats
very
in?
good question.
You've got to pick the establishment that he's ordering from, not the type of food,
What
but
what
what are
place?
you with?
Well, no, that's part of my question. Like, where would he want? What would he want?
I think. Listen, I think I speak for both of us when I say it's got to be a
know where you're
cheesy
going.
gordita crunch, right?
It does, Guido.
Like, who
it has
doesn't
to
know
be
that?
a cheesy gordita crunch. It's the best thing on Taco Bell's menu.
This is what I really thought he was going to say, because this would have been the better answer, Scooty. I thought that if you were at the Coliseum and you're like, man, I could use something to eat that's not here, there's a Qdoba right down Patterson that I thought you would just
like
get
a
your Uber Eats
Qdoba.
from
I
for that.
do like a good Qdoba. Think of us, Qdoba. Mexican Eats, I believe that's their slogan. Anyway, we are available for sponsorship.
Yeah, we'll sign us right.
I think I gotta go. I think I gotta go something quick though, something that's gonna take care of business, and that's the cheesy gordita crunch.
It definitely will take care of business.
I thought you were going to Jake Lance me there for a second and like go down this rabbit hole of Chipotle.
Well, we
versus
already
Qdoba.
know.
That's what I was
We
trying
already
to get
know.
him to.
So, Chipotle is not looking to sponsor us. I think Qdoba would.
So it was a prank, though. It was a prank. It was not. It was not real.
Yes, it was a
That's
prank.
hilarious.
That's correct. But it would be. Yeah, it's very strange.
And that comes off of a week of like weird, strange things happening at basketball games too. Because I saw in an NBA game where like James Harden just decided to run onto the court in the middle of a play
I
the
saw
other day. There was a lot of weirdness happening during the middle of basketball games.
Well, it makes me wonder now if ushers and staff will be specifically directed to make sure Uber Eats people aren't wandering out onto the court.
I will say this, and I don't know when the change of this game, a women's game, the
yes.
Coliseum staff are now wearing ties and vests. Don't know that I've ever noticed that before.
Oh, very
Oh,
They
really?
were again in the Auburn game,
Huh.
which I happened to see. I think there was somebody may have run into going out of bounds or something, ran into a vest wearing stadium worker. Very high class.
Interesting. Well, thought that was good. Very high class. We should talk a little football, just a tiny bit. One is congratulations to Kazir White, who plays for the Eagles and is going to get to play in the Super Bowl in 2 weeks.
Not the Eagles. Not if you're from West Virginia, you don't call them Eagles. You call them
What do you-
Eagles.
Eagles.
Eagles?
Eagles.
Oh, okay.
Eagles. And also congratulations to Geno Smith, who the Pro Football Writers of America voted the comeback player of the year. So to, West Virginia alumni, doing well in the NFL. So that's nice to see. Any news we want to talk about with head coach Neil Brown, guys? I mean,
Well,
Scoot's like, do we have to?
he was at the Bob Huggins Fish Fry. It appeared as though he had at least 1, maybe 2 bottles of water at the table. Yep. That's what I could
Maybe
see.
2
That's
bottles
all I
of
could
water.
see from the photos.
Keeping him hydrated. Scoot, he compared, so they had some quotes recently at a press conference talking about the upcoming season. One thing really quick, Guido, he compared one thing that caught my attention. He compared the transfer portal to deposits and withdrawals.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now.
In a banking account. Scoot.
Chapter
how would
11.
you describe that?
That's how I would
banking
describe it. We are in chapter 11. Listen.
He's running that negative checking account. I hope he has that. What is that? That checking protection that you get.
Overdraft.
You know,
We got some overdrafts.
Overdraft protection. That feels like a United Bank, like
yes,
Coach Neil
United
Brown,
with the
United Bank,
Mountaineers.
right? Check out our overdraft.
Thank God for the
protected.
FDIC.
Yeah, right.
I just had to throw that. Your
No,
way,
that
Scoot.
was
I thought
great. And that same press conference too, it was interesting because he said that because we've got this whole new conference that we're playing next year. We've got all these new teams, so not everybody will play everybody next year. And so one of the things he says is he knows who he's playing, he knows what teams he's playing, but he doesn't know when. And so kind of like, well, why aren't they telling us? Like, it was kind of an interesting comment to come out.
It's probably going to be Houston game 4.
Wow.
Followed by somebody really tough and bad game 5.
Scoot, he also said that he would be heavily involved in next year's offense.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Listen, I've been saying that for months. Ask Graham Harrell how heavily involved he's been.
Scoot's been buying stock in like Anderson and a couple of those big screen door companies.
Screens? Yeah, right?
Yeah,
Listen, I am still waiting for Guido to go to a football game in that number 2 Daigie jersey that he said he would.
I mean, maybe we have to. I'm gonna go dressed as a Larson screen door. That's what I'm gonna go dressed as. We'll just wear a screen. Can you like?
We go in veils. Would we wear a veil?
Remember we said we were going to bring out the screenometer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Remember?
I mean,
yeah. Well, if there's somebody who's really good with writing websites and some way to figure out, like, can we just have a website that we check that just counts the screens throughout the whole season? Like, West Virginia stats guy's got to get on this. He's got to figure out a way to give us some sort of like screen stat, like bubble screen stat.
Do you think other teams, the sideline, when it's a run or it's a pass, they're just going to go screen? They're going to yell screen when it's a screen.
Hey, how funny would it be, Scoot? When now on the sidelines they hold up like the big banners that block?
Or
Yes.
to block.
So
What
you
if
can't
we
see
held up
screens?
screens?
They were just screens,
Yeah.
right? They were just like big
Yes.
screens.
I like it.
Screen doors.
Yeah, so
Are we going too far with the screen?
I mean,
Scoot?
I think-
I like the play on screens.
we'll have to design.
Can we figure out some more?
Got to design a shirt to put in the store.
I feel like you're not appreciating all the ways we're bringing the word screen
listen,
into this segment.
I don't appreciate the screen. Like you and I can throw a screen pass. We're not Division I college quarterbacks. We had a 5-star quarterback, and we asked him to throw the ball 5 yards for the last 5 games of the season. Listen, we don't want you throwing it any more than 12 yards.
Please
Don't
only.
want you to
Well,
hurt
listen,
your arm.
Chad Scott's going to run the ball. So
Chad Scott's going to run the ball. That's what's going to happen.
that's what's going to happen.
Big
Scoot.
league backs.
Yep. And speaking of positions that we throw a lot to, tight end. Mike O'Laughlin left WVU because I don't think they were throwing the ball to him enough. And guess where he landed, Scooty?
Well, I'm going to guess Liberty University because that's where all Mountaineers go.
No, even better. Another place. He might.
That's
be,
a good
That's a good
guess,
guess.
but
He might be
no.
actually back at Mountaineer Field because he's got his arm around Dana Holgerson down in Houston.
It's a little weird. He's going to join his old buddy Sam Brown.
Yeah. So it'll be an interesting season. Well, We should probably wrap it up. I'm sure we'll have more football stuff to talk about. Spring game's not that far away, guys. We're only 2 months away from spring practices. So
I can't wait to see that competition.
Hey, we'll see that QB competition.
That quarterback competition.
That's right.
You're going to see it.
Those press conferences will be interesting. So, hey, thanks for listening, everybody. Don't forget, look for us online. You can find us on Instagram or Twitter at Got Your Ears. You can also find us on Facebook. Just search for Got Your Ears On. And we have a website where we post all of these thoughts and links so you can find them, Johnson.
That's what we do. We post each show's show notes in blog form out on the website, all the links that you can click on of the stuff we talked about, probably stuff we didn't even get to. You can click on the Tune In link right on the website to listen to the latest show. And you can also click through to the GYEO merch store. So check it all out.
Yeah, check it out. GotYourEarsOn.com.
That merch is flying off the shelves.
It is. Can't
Polo
keep
shirts.
it on
The polo
there.
shirts have been moving.
Polo shirt, hot seller.
Hot sellers.
Like hotcakes.
Hotcakes. You know, we're big with the 45-year-old crowd. They need those golf shirts. So
That's right.
Stylish.
That's
very
right.
stylish. Very stylish. WVU plays twice this week. They play on Tuesday. They travel to Fort Worth to play TCU, 15th ranked. That's a 9 p.m. tip on ESPNU. They also play Oklahoma. The Sooners come to the Coliseum on Saturday, an 8 o'clock tip-off on ESPN2, so check that out. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll be back with another show next week. You've been listening to Got Your Ears On.